Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, your lovely faces, to part 2 of Andy's fantastic work. So we're going to jump straight into it. This is starting, we saw about the parts with the different instant dates where she said 8th of March happened somewhere else, the 22nd happened somewhere else, but then it was all mixed up. She did different statements. And when she was being cross-examined, which we're going to look at now, she says a few other things, which is like, yeah, you kind of messed up, darling. So this is the first one. Her cross-examination, day 11, 21st July last year. I recall I was facing towards the living room, and there was blood on the Smeg fridge. There was this old Smeg fridge, and I remember the next day making a joke about it. Where was the wall? Was it to your right or your left or behind you or to the side of you? It was to my right. Okay, right. Okay. The witness. Well, I did not look at this as it hit the wall. I immediately grabbed my face and looked down. All I can tell you is that Johnny wore these rings on every finger and he did this. I cannot tell. We were maybe 2-3 feet. We were in the kitchen and the downstairs of the Eastern Columbia building in Penthouse 3. We had gotten in an argument because he was accusing me of having an affair with 2 people, neither of which I have ever had a romantic relationship with. Well, I think we know what's happened now because there's video evidence of you with certain people. So, what are you saying happened on the 8th? You tell us. A disco bloodbath. I've always said that. In this way, she was able to recouple the disco bloodbath text with her alleged this, and thereby to again given weight and credibility to her allegations. In order to guide the observer into believing that Mr. Depp was again under the influence of this during the alleged what happened on the 8th of March, as he allegedly was during the 22nd of March, she was somehow able to include in her 7th witness statement another telling photograph, as we can see by there, which is 2 lines of the old, of the old white powder, the old sugar, and you got, the rolled up device there. Don't know what that is by there, but And we got his good old credit card there, which again, that kind of makes you think, this is lined up way too easy. The photograph was taken on 8th of March, according to metadata, and shows 2 lines of this on the bathroom counter at the 80 Sweatser, along with Mr. Depp's credit card, a straw, and a small bindle. I took this photo of Johnny's this in the bathroom at 80 Sweatser on the 8th of March. I recognise that those appear to be lines of this. I see a straw, a little bindle, and I see clearly my credit card. Re-examination, I have 261 and 261. They are the same photograph, but just includes metadata. Now, we have the unravelling testimony of the spatter incident. Implausibility. In the space of just 15 days, her testimony shifted from claiming that the entire incident took place at her house on the 8th of March, to it having taken place at her house on the 22nd of March, to then splitting and embellishing it such that one part took place on the 8th and Mr. Johnny Depp's penthouse, and the other part, the attempt to burn the painting, took place on the 22nd of March at her house. Yet she was clearly in her final statement that it was only the date about which she was mistaken, not the location, and that the entirety of the incident happened on the 22nd of March at her house on Orange Avenue, and that the 8th of March was a separate incident. Any person of reasonable mind would immediately be suspicious of her ever-shifting testimony that she so conveniently moulded to fit the contrary evidence right up to the start of the trial, and then further went on the witness stand. There were, however, far greater holes in her testimony that gives both compelling and irrefutable proof that her allegations were no more than a fantastic concoction. Non-existing fridge. It is immediately implausible that her sudden and vivid recollection of the Smeg fridge next to where this happened in the kitchen on Penthouse 3 could somehow have been previously confused with the fridge and kitchen wall of her own house. It is similarly implausible that she would possess the unique trait of having a memory that improves with time. There was simply no additional evidence introduced that could have triggered her new and vivid recollection of the location and nearby items that she described in her shifting court testimony. But most condemning of all is quite simply that, according to Adam Waldman, Mr. Depp's Superman attorney, the Smeg fridge that she cites to support and bolster her first testimony had not yet been purchased at the time of this by Mr. Depp. And this is what we got, which is absolutely amazing. March 23rd, 2013. She claimed Johnny Depp done this in the face with fingers, done this in a Smeg fridge that wasn't purchased until 2014. Confronted with this photo taken the following day, her and her sister testified you can clearly see the damage. Where? There is no damage, and we haven't got anything there, so I'm going to zoom in. Yeah, there's no damage. But we do have, obviously, the good old Smeg fridge, October 9th, 2014, which she said was, that's where it landed. According to Mr. Wallman, the above tweet and accompanying purchase history posted in early January 2021, the Smeg fridge was not purchased until 9th of October 2014, 17 months after the incident. And by inference, no such fridge existed in the kitchen of the penthouse on the 8th of March 2013. If this was the case, as the evidence suggests, her story is proven to have been wholly invented. Admission. Mr. Depp was at Orange County. On the witness stand, she gave no testimony to contradict her first witness statement that the alleged argument on the 8th of March continued overnight into the next day, and that Mr. Depp did this during that argument. This was a whole ordeal of screaming, fighting that went on overnight and into the next day. He did this with the back of his hand, some of which ended up on the wall. The actual timing of this is, however, given more accurately by the very text exchange that she cites in support of her allegations. During the exchange, she times this as having happened on a Friday night. Is it about last Friday night by any chance? We can therefore establish from both her first witness statement and her text message that this took place that very night and that the argument ensued overnight, and from that evidence we also establish that both Mr. and Mr. Depp remained at the penthouse apartment overnight. We know also from her court testimony on day 10 of the UK trial that she had not yet moved in with Mr. Depp and that he occasionally stayed at the East Columbia building, so it is entirely plausible that both she and Mr. Depp were at the penthouse apartment during that night. When you first started your relationship with him, in fact you had your own property in Orange Drive, is that right? I rented a home, yes. He also had a downtown place, which was the Eastern Columbia building, consisting of 5 different condominiums, and he occasionally stayed there. However, other evidence given by her again proves that both her and Mr. Depp could not have been at the penthouse apartment on the 8th of March. On the afternoon of 23rd of March, whilst building documentary evidence in support of a concocted story of his enraged and fueled argument the previous day, she exchanged many text messages with her mother, Paige. So, in one of those messages, she asserts that Mr. Depp had been at her house every night for weeks and underlined the fact with the words that it was my first peaceful night at home. He's been at my house for weeks now. Every night. Last night I locked the deadbolt on accident and fell asleep. So it was my first peaceful night. Under re-examination on day 13 of the UK trial, she reaffirmed the truth of the words she had texted to her mother. So say lower down the page, he's been at my house for weeks now. Is that correct? Yes. It had been so many nights of up-down binge drinking. I just went home and accidentally, meaning on purpose, locked the deadbolt so that he could not use the key to get into my home. As you say in the next text, it was my first peaceful night. It is simply impossible that she could have forgotten or overlooked in both her statement and court testimony the immensely traumatic experience on the night of 8th of March, only 2 weeks prior to her text, where she was done this, with such force that the rings did this which spattered the wall, went on overnight and into the next day. By her own admission, he had stayed at her house every night for weeks, and this would include the night of 8th of March 2013, and hence, by her own admission, the alleged events of 8th of March could not have taken place. Photographic proof of no injury. Further irrefutable evidence that this happened was wholly concocted was given in a further text and accompanying photograph that she sent to her mother a little more than an hour after the aforementioned text message. She took the below photograph at 1:22 on Saturday the 23rd of March 2013, according to metadata, and immediately texted it to her mother. So that's what we got by there, the bruise on her arm. The text message read, "From 2 weeks ago today, placing the date of the injury 9th of March, the day after the alleged blood splatter incident, which she testified would have continued overnight into the 9th of March. The photograph below is the original photograph taken by her, and adjacent to it is an enlargement of the section of photo showing her face and lips. Having given lengthy and detailed testimony as to the injury to her lip caused by Depp, and from which this happened to the wall, she chose to photograph and complain only of a bruise to her upper arm in the text to her mum. So, got the bruise by there, we can see that, but yeah. Anyone who has had split lips or whatever, or is force enough to actually split it open, it stays there for a while. It's not just going to heal up and disappear. To get the force as well that she's saying, that the blood went on the wall and everything else, that is going to be some force and some gash on the face. 100%, because your lip is just going to go pop. And again, if people watch MMA or boxing or anything like that, when you see someone get a split lip, by someone getting full force in the face, they have that cut for a couple of weeks. Normally for about 8 weeks, because sometimes the fighters are not allowed to train because of it. That is 2 weeks after she supposedly had this horrendous and this so bad little on the lip. There's nothing there. As you can see in the photo, there's nothing there. We're going to go in a little bit further. There's nothing there. Seriously, there's nothing there. We can see the bruise on her arm, though. 100% we can see that. But apart from that, that is just... yeah, So confused was her own legal team by her ever-shifting testimony that Miss Waz believed the arm injury to have been caused during the March 22nd painting incident, and questioned Mr. Depp in that vein on day 2. You had your cigarette lighter with you and you tried to set fire to the painting. That is not true. Sorry, F894001. Do you remember Mr. Depp causing any injury to her arm? No, ma'am, I do not. Crucially, the photograph is of high resolution and quality. There is no discernible makeup being worn by her, and certainly no red lipstick which she claimed had hidden her injured lip in Incident 12. There is clearly no injury whatsoever to her face or lips, which is not. The assault on the 8th of March, as described, would not only have caused more trauma, but the bruise shown to her arm, but would most certainly have been the focal injury to have been photographed and sent to her mother, had she indeed had it. The photograph gives proof of no injury whatsoever to her mouth, and thereby gives further proof that the assault was a total fabricated incident. It is worth noting that only 2 publicly available photographs showing these to her arm were given in evidence. In both photographs, the injury was on her left arm. The second of the 2 adjacent photos show scars to her arm that she claims have been done by Mr. Depp in Australia in March 2015. At that time, Jerry Judge, Mr. Depp's bodyguard, was overheard on an accidental mobile phone recording saying she has scratches on her left arm, and I've seen those scratches before on a lot of people, and as far as I'm concerned, they're self-inflicted, and I'm convinced it was self-inflicted. The bruise in her first photo that she claims to have been inflicted 2 weeks ago is clearly much fresher than a 2-week injury. Caught in a lie, affairs, locations, and dates. In her first statement, she testified that during the ordeal, Mr. Depp was also accused of having an affair with Miss Tasha Van Ree. At having another point the ordeal, he also accused me of having an affair with my ex-wife. In her 5th statement, she testified on the 10th of March. She had told Kate James about Johnny doing this after being upset about Tasha. And in the same statement, she added that she had texted Miss James the previous day saying that she would tell her the story later. 10th of March 2013, I told Kate about Johnny doing this after being upset about Tasha. The day after the painting incident, I sent a text to Kate telling her there was long drama last night and I'll tell her later. And Kate is the one where she took her story. She took Kate's story and she just basically made a mockery out of it, which is absolutely disgusting. But again, no, this is the kind of person we know we're dealing with. In her 7th statement, she changed the date of the entire incident from 8th of March to 22nd. When giving evidence in the UK trial, Miss Heard confirmed that the argument on the 22nd of March also involved Depp's suspicion that she was having an affair with her ex-wife. Yes, Johnny refused to specifically leave the kitchen. He wanted me to admit that I was having an affair with not only Tasha, my ex-partner. Problem in having changed the date of the incident from the 8th to the 22nd was that she could not accordingly change the date of the text messages she sent to Miss James on the 9th of March, nor the date of her conversation on the 10th of March, where she told Miss James about Johnny doing this after being upset about Tasha. The date of this exchange with Miss James would necessarily place the argument over Miss Van Ree at Penthouse 3 on the 8th of March. The immediate problem is that her testimony, she inexcusably coupled the argument over Miss Van Ree with her painting, that Mr. Depp had tried to set a light to during the same argument on the 22nd of March. Under cross-examination on day 11, Hood, in trying to build a new incident for 8th of March, shifted the event to Penthouse 3, and further testified that the argument that night was over Mr. Depp's accusation that she was in a relationship with two people, neither of whom she had ever had a romantic relationship with. Well, one of them she was married to. So I think that's a romantic relationship, don't you? We were in the kitchen of the downstairs of the Eastern Columbia building, Penthouse 3. We got into an argument because he was accusing me of having an affair with two people, neither of which I've ever had a romantic relationship with. The argument cannot therefore have been over Miss Van Ree, which leaves the unsolvable conundrum of a text message sent on the 9th of March relating to an argument over Tasha that didn't happen until the 22nd of March. Clearly, her testimony of an affair and allegations of this was just a stream of one lie after another, until finally she became so entangled in her own lies that she was unable to escape them. We do have a couple of pages left, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to leave it by there. We're going to go into part 3 tomorrow, and we'll get that sorted. But as you can see, Andy has done such a phenomenal job with this. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe for future updates, and I'll see each and every one of you soon.